Power of the pen, and right out the top, the work to dismantle the Department of Education. So you see President Donald Trump, he's going to start that process today with the signing of his first executive order to abolish that department. So what is this all about? Well, if you ask the White House, they will tell you national test scores reveal what they call a crisis and that, quote, our children are falling behind. They also add this language saying millions of illegal minors coming into the country are straining school resources and diverting focus from American students. And they also say, coupled with the rise of anti-American critical race theory and diversity, equity, and inclusion indoctrination, harms our most vulnerable, close quote. So let's get to the tricky part here. Closing the department does not happen by executive order. Doing that actually requires an order from Congress, an act of Congress. So to get granular on this, we're talking about the need for 60 votes in the Senate. So knowing they have to get to 60, think about it this way. Republicans only have a 53 to 47 seat advantage. You know what we're talking about here. That means they would need 7 Democrats to get this passed. And that's if every single Republican senator is on board. Now let's go back in time. In 2024, the Department of Education had a $268 billion annual budget. And the DOE says billions goes to high poverty K through 12 schools, $15.5 billion to teach children with disabilities, and $1.6 trillion for federal student loan programs. So a lot to break down here. CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman live with us today from the White House lawn. So Willie, what are the people who depend on those programs where all of those millions of dollars are assigned there in the list we just talked about? What are they bracing for?
Hey there, Reed. Good to be with you on this first day of spring. Well, the White House says that those programs, including the ones that you mentioned, the Title I programs and those programs that hand out student loans, take in those payments, those will still be handled by the Department of Education. But the president, in signing this executive order, is going to start to essentially diminish the department, cut down on the department. We've already seen half of the workforce at the Department of Education fired, basically let go. We have seen the Trump White House move towards dismantling the Department of Education. And this is the start of that step with this executive order the president is signing today. But as you pointed out perfectly, he will need Congress to fully get rid of the Department of Education because it was created during the Carter administration by an act of Congress. So the president cannot just unilaterally do this on his own. But for now, at least, those programs that millions of Americans depend on will still remain at the Department of Education. But there's a thought here at this White House that student loans and other types of programs that are handled by the Department of Education will be handled by different departments once it is eliminated.
So, Willie, got to ask you, in thinking about it this way, there is the executive order, and then there's the general, so to speak, who then executes that order and implements it. We're talking about Linda McMahon. Any signal from her office about first steps?
Yeah, well, we've already seen part of this in a memo that the Secretary of Education essentially talked about the final task, I'm summing it up here, of the Department of Education to not only to continue to give out those funds, to continue to run those programs, but to really hand this over to the states. Of course, there's no curriculum set, so no national curriculum set by the U.S. government. The states handle hiring teachers, handling curriculum across the board, but the Department of Education saying that they want to get out of the business of really handling any type or really handling any type of education funding. They want to hand that over to the states. They don't want to necessarily control it at the federal level. So that's part of the messaging here, to give this back to the states. And Linda McMahon, the education secretary, has said as much previously in interviews and during her testimony on Capitol Hill as well, Reed.
Well, and you know, going into, we had that statement that talked about, at least from the Trump administration's point of view, that doing this could eliminate critical race theory being taught in schools. But we've heard from K through 12 teachers all along that that is not taught K through 12.
Yeah, that's right. I'm glad you pointed that out. A few years ago, I did some reporting in Texas about this specific issue, that this was not this is not something that is taught at the K through 12 level. Critical race theory really is a complex topic, a complex way of looking at things that is taught at the collegiate level. Universities, colleges around the country perhaps use that, but it is not taught at the K through 12 level. It's important to point that out because it's really a complicated topic to even get into. Let alone students, of course, are focused on reading, writing, and different things. They're not necessarily focused on this particular topic as well. But despite that, conservatives, Republicans, including this White House, have really targeted critical race theory. There have been some folks out there who have said that they want to get out of the business of DEI or critical race theory. So you saw that statement there from the White House Deputy Press Secretary. They're saying that it doesn't matter what you call it necessarily. They want to make sure that they're not funding, or the U.S. government isn't funding any of these programs, perhaps in an indirect way. So that's a different way of going about it, but still nonetheless, this is certainly something that the president has said he wanted to do previously and is following through with his executive order to start to dismantle the Department of Education today, later at 4 p.m. Read.
Some important things to talk about and some distinctions the voters do deserve and need to know about. Meanwhile, top heavy hitters in education telling Mr. Trump, see you in court. Willie, it's so great to talk to you. Thank you so much for helping us to deeper understand that.
You bet.